As we continue through our series, we are at chapter 11 in the book of Hosea, and I titled this one, The Overwhelming Love of God. There are people in this world that have a mindset of the fact that I'm not good enough. God could never, ever love me because I'm just too rotten. My life has been too rotten, and there's just no way that God possibly could forgive me, could come into my life. If I go to him, he would just throw me out. How many people have you talked to that said, I won't go into the church because I'll be struck dead if I walk into the door? Okay, it's a mindset, okay? And we're going to look today at how that mindset is so wrong. I mean, so unbelievably wrong. So we have to, in order to understand chapter 11, we got to go back kind of to the beginning of the book where we looked at the two characters, Hosea and Gomer. Gomer, of course, was his wife that he married, who was a harlot. And throughout their marriage, she would run off. She would stay with this guy, stay with that guy, and then she would get herself into trouble financially, and Hosea would help her out. Time and time again, he would help her out, till finally she was down to the point to where she had nothing, and she had debt. So in those days, what did you do with a person that had nothing and had debt? Is you put them on the auction block. Okay, they were to be sold. They were to be sold to the highest bidder, and the money would go to those that had the debt against that person, and that would be the end. They basically now became owned by somebody else. But anyway, so here we have Gomer is on the auction block. Hosea comes and he buys her. Now, of course, Gomer's thinking is, well, he bought me so that he can get his revenge on all the things I've done. But he doesn't. He says, you're going to come, you're going to be my wife, you're going to be a good wife, I'm going to treat you with love and with kindness, I'm going to provide for you all the days of your life. Wow. That doesn't quite fit into our normal way of dealing with that sort of issues in a marriage. See, because our concept in a marriage is that if one spouse cheats on the other one, it's an automatic separation. It's an automatic, you're gone. It's the end of you. The marriage is dissolved because you can't be trusted, so I don't want you anymore. That's the normal mindset, okay? And even in the Christian community, it's the normal mindset. It says, well, Jesus said, well, if you would study carefully what Jesus said, you would find out that what most people think he said is wrong. Jesus said, because of the hardness of your heart, Moses gave a certificate of divorce, not because it was the best thing to do. No, the best thing to do is reconciliation. That's the best. But anyway, setting that all aside and looking at where we are at in Hosea now, we got to remember that Hosea was setting forth a picture, you might say, in his life, and I think it was a real life. But now this is being transferred over to Ephraim. Ephraim, which is the name for the northern 10 tribes of Israel. So starting off, we got to back up just a little bit and go to Hosea 2:23. I will sow her for myself in the land. I will also have compassion on her who has not obtained compassion. And I will say to those who were not my people, you are my people. And they will say, you are my God. Here's kind of the beginning of the book. And it's talking about the fact that because you really shouldn't be my people because of your wicked ways. But there are going to be, it's going to be a change. They are going to be my people, even though they were not. And secondary in here is talking about the Gentiles. That these would be a people who would come and be part of that family. And of course, for Jews, the idea of a Gentile coming in was horrid. That the Gentiles are the dogs out there. You don't even associate with them. Of course, it was fine to associate with them if you were going to make some money off of them, but other than that, you just didn't. So, but the compassion of God here is spelled out in this chapter. And in the last 2 chapters also, we will see in our last 3 chapters. Because the love of God is so far beyond our grasp. It's kind of like Hosea is trying to do it, make an attempt at it, except for most of the time, it's God himself speaking. So the last 4 chapters, Hosea speaks more and more about the love of God, helping us to see that his love for us is not based on us, but on him. Based on who he is, who God is. At certain points in here, Hosea speaks from his own life experiences, while God speaks from a heart of true and compassionate love for his people. The book of Hosea teaches us that the love of God is not reciprocal. Everything that we do as far as generally our love and compassion is reciprocal. If you don't love me, I'm not going to love you. If you're not good to me, I'm not going to be good to you. If you treat me mean, I'm going to treat you mean. God doesn't work that way. He loves us even though we don't deserve it. It's not based on our emotions, our feelings, even our knowledge, or our works. See, none of those are the foundation for God's love for us. Just because I feel his love for me doesn't mean it's real. It can be a lie. I read his word and it says that he loves me. Well, his word's true, but your understanding for yourself may or may not be true. Or I do all these things. You know, I'm a really good person. I do lots of things. I mean, I help support these missions. I help, say I show up for church. I do all these wonderful things. And also doesn't help. It doesn't mean a thing. Because the love of God is found only in one place, and that is who he is. He has, the love of God is simply in who God is. In Ephesians 3:19, and to know the love of Christ which surpasses knowledge. Catch that? To know the love of Christ which surpasses knowledge. Remember I just said, it's not because of knowledge, it's not because of feelings, it's not because of all these things. This surpasses that. That you may be filled up unto all the fullness of God. See, if we know the love of God, we end up being filled up with that love. It becomes real. But it's because who he is, not because of our response, not because of who we are. So it starts off with Jehovah speaks. So verse 1. When Israel was a youth, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. This is a wonderful way to start it because it automatically forces us to immediately go to Jesus. Out of Egypt I called my son. Because if you remember, after Jesus' birth and Herod was killing off all the babies, Joseph was told in a dream, or by an angel, I forget which one it was, but it doesn't matter, to go to Egypt and stay there a while. And then eventually, after King Herod had died, it was safe to return to Israel. An angel came and told Joseph, it's safe now, go ahead and come back. So out of Egypt, I called my son. That's talking about. Verse 2, the more they called them, the more they went from them, and kept sacrificing to the Baals and burning incense to idols. God is saying, the more prophets I sent to tell the people that what they are doing is evil and wicked and it needs to stop, the more they would just continue to go after it. And they kept sacrificing to the Baals. Baal being the local idol of the day, basically. But they continued to go after him. They didn't want to give up their false god for the true God. And they burned incense to idols. See, it wasn't just the case of they were going after the Baals they were worshiping, but their sweetness, their desires, everything good that was about them in their own mind was going after the Baals. See, because the incense is that sweet smelling odor. So in their minds and their hearts, they're seeing Baal as the answer. Verses 3 and 4. Yet it is I who taught Ephraim to walk. I took them in my arms, but they did not know that I healed them. I led them with cords of a man, with bonds of love, and I became to them as one that lifts the yoke from his jaws. And I bent down and I fed them. Parallel here between Hosea and Gomer early on in the book, where Hosea constantly was taking care of his wife, even though she had gone after other men. And here's the parallel between how God was constantly going after the children of Israel, or Ephraim. And his loving kindness is displayed because look at it here when we go to the next set, the next screen. Verses 3 and 4 again. I did all the blanks because it helps us to see what is actually happening here. I who taught Ephraim to walk. I took them in my arms. I healed them. I became to them as one who the yoke from their jaws, bent down and fed them. God is saying, I did all of these things for them. Even though they were wandered far from me, even though they were showing me no regard, I continued to do this. In the same way that Hosea continued to provide for Gomer even after she had left. Humanly speaking, we would say, what a fool are you? You got a woman that treats you like that and you continue to help her? There's something wrong with you. Verses 5 and 6. They will not return to the land of Egypt, but Assyria. He will be their king because they refuse to turn to me. The sword will whirl against their cities and will demolish their gated bars and consume them because of their counsels. See, now the prophecy is you're going to lose because you absolutely continually refuse to turn away from your wicked ways. Even after I've done all these things for you, you refuse to turn. And it's not you're going to escape to Egypt. Because look at history, actually that's what kind of in their mind is they were going to go to Egypt and the Egyptians would help them against the Assyrians. It never happened. Because Egypt refused. Now Assyria comes and they conquer them. But then at the end of it, because of their counsels. Why did they not turn? Because they were believing the false prophets that were telling them everything is okay. Don't worry about it. We've gone all this time and we've survived. We got really strong walls and our military is not too bad. But they were being diminished to almost nothing by this point. They were just a small portion of the original land. But somehow or some way, people want to believe lies. They want to believe it's going to work out for them, and they just ignore reality that's in front of them. So the poor counsel they received. Verse 7, so my people are bent on turning from me. Though they called them to the one on high, none of at all exalts him. See, they called out to God, finally, but not as God. They called out to him as the genie in the bottle. They called out to him saying, God is going to take care of us. I mean, we are the descendants of Abraham after all, so God will never let these disasters happen, even though they've been warned over and over again. See, they called out to God, but they also called out to Baal at the same time. But what can God do at this point? After showering them with love, they still refused to turn. See, as Gomer continued in her adulterous ways, so that Ephraim did not turn back to God. But listen to this next verse. Verse 8. How can I give you up, O Ephraim? How can I surrender you, O Israel? How can I make you like Abiram? How can I treat you like Zebulun? My heart is turned over within me. All my compassions are kindled. God is saying, you see, after all you've done, I still love you. Now these two towns that are named here, Abiram and Zebulun, those actually are towns in the plains where Sodom and Gomorrah was, and they were destroyed when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So that's what those towns are. So the references to their destruction. But there's also a little bit of mistranslation, not seriously, but just enough to give us a little bit of a handle for it. So if we go to verse 8 on the next slide, where it says, how can I give you up, O Ephraim? And then the how can isn't there. Shall is. I surrender you, O Israel. Then how can I make you like Ammon? And then shall I treat you like Zebulun? Now the reason that it is important for us to see this is the fact that in very standard in Hebrew writing, when there's an emphasis on something, it's said twice. Now not necessarily the exact same words, but the exact same meaning. So what we have here is one of those sets. You've got, how can I give you up? Shall I surrender you, O Israel? How can I make you like Ammon? Shall I treat you like Zebulun? So it's repeating, how can I? How can I possibly do this? Because I love you. How can I do this thing? And I have this, my heart is turned over within me, and my compassions are kindled. God again speaking as a man, because here again the emotional aspect isn't there, but he's saying, how can I do these things to you? How can I let you be destroyed or destroy you? Because I still harbor this love for you. I still want you to turn. I have no reason to wait on you, but I want to. Verse 9. I will not execute my fierce anger. I will not destroy Ephraim again. We'll stop right there for a minute. God says, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to destroy them. God let them destroy themselves. God says, I'm not going to destroy you. And if we look and we say, how can that possibly be? How can a people turn so far away from God, constantly going against him, constantly worshiping the Baals? And then the next line answers that question. For I am God and not man. See, in our way of thinking, when somebody does all these terrible things over and over and over again and never has the desire to change, we give up. Say, you're hopeless. Or long before then, we boot them out. We separate ourselves from them because they've just gone too far. And God says, how can I possibly be this way? He says, because I'm God. And I can be this way. And what does that mean that I am God? I am a God of overwhelming loving kindness that cares about you. That it's not based upon what you do. It's not based upon who you are. It's not based upon all your actions or inactions. It is based upon my desire to love you. The Holy One in your midst, and I will not come in wrath. See, God could have came and just wiped them out. And there would have been no upheaval or complaint in regards to, you might say, the world. Oh yeah, you did that to your God and your God came and wiped you out. That's standard procedure around here. That's how it works. God says, no, I don't do that. I'm not going to. Why? Because I'm God and not man. Verse 10, they will walk after the Lord. He will roar like a lion. Indeed, he will roar. And his son shall come trembling from the west. See, now we're jumping back to the beginning when I was talking about Jesus. And now it's also tying in the Gentiles. They will walk with the Lord. See, because God sent his son who called him out of Egypt. He came, he lived, and he died, and he rose again so that we could have eternal life. See, now suddenly we're going from the beginning of Jesus' ministry, his birth, his life, his ministry, his death, his resurrection. The sons will come trembling from the west. See, because now we have the roar of the lion. Indeed, he will roar. Now we jump all the way to Revelation 5, verse 5. And one of the elders said to me, stop weeping. Behold, the lion that is from the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has overcome so as to open the book with the 7 seals. See how we went to Jesus at the beginning? We go back to Jesus in verse 10, because now it's talking about the lion roaring. Now the lion of the tribe of Judah in Revelation is the one who can open the book of the 7 seals. Now what is the book of 7 seals? That really is helpful to know, be able to open it. Okay, the book of 7 seals was a scroll that was written on the front and on the back, which emphasizes the fact that there is no additions or subtractions to what is written. But the book of 7 seals was the work of God from beginning to end. And it can only be carried out by one who is worthy to open the book. The one who is worthy to open the book is Jesus, because Jesus gave his life for us. So when it says here, it talks about has overcome and has opened the book. It's referencing Jesus being able to overcome. Verse 11, they will come trembling like birds from Egypt and like doves from the land of Assyria, and will settle them down in houses, declares the Lord. See, it's almost like it's jumping back to verse 8 again. There where it says, my heart is turned over within me, and my compassions are kindled. They will come trembling. We come trembling to our God because he is God. Verse 12, Ephraim surrounds me with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. Judah is also unruly against God, even against the Holy One who is faithful. See, even though Ephraim has really gone down to deep ends, Judah is following their path. Now, Ephraim disappeared. Judah didn't, the 2 tribes. They survived. They were taken to Babylon, and then after 70 years they returned, and that's a whole other area of study. But the one thing that's interesting about chapter 12, verse 1, is why the split is, if we say where it is as far as the chapters and the verses, because it actually makes more sense for verse 1 of chapter 12 to be the next verse 13, actually, you might say, of chapter 11. So I'm including it in this study. So Ephraim feeds on wind and pursues the east wind continually. He multiplies lies and violence, and moreover, he makes a covenant with Assyria, and oil is carried to Egypt. All of this is coming to pass. He feeds on the wind. Now, years ago, in truck driving days, we were in Pennsylvania, and they had one of these inspections set up. And actually, it was more of a survey than anything else. And they would hire these college kids to take the survey. You would take your truck, you would pull up, they would come, they would ask you questions. Where are you coming from? Where are you going to? What are you hauling? All these sort of basic questions. And well, the guy I was with was driving, and when they asked him, what are you hauling? He said, sailboat fuel. And so the college kid starts writing down sailboat fuel. And the guy next to him kind of punched him a little bit. Do you know what sailboat fuel is? Yeah, wind. We got a box full of wind. Okay, this is what they're after. Ephraim feeds on wind, sailboat fuel. It gets you nothing. It gets you nowhere. He pursues that wind continually. He multiplies lies and violence. It's the lies that come across. It is that false worship, that false concepts. And he just multiplies them, and he just brings out violence. Moreover, he makes a covenant with Assyria. Like Assyria is going to save him. No, Assyria is going to conquer you. And oil is carried to Egypt. In other words, your wealth is going to be taken away. Egypt, of course, is also synonymous again with slavery. So all of these things come together, and the people refuse to come and follow God. They refuse to repent. But there is a people. There always is a remnant that does. And it's not based upon how good they are. It's not based upon how clean they are. It's not based upon how wealthy they are. It's based upon God's love for them. The only criteria. From there grows our love for him.